Hi, welcome back to class. And this week we are moving on through our text. So now we're on to inequality of gender. And so, of course, this week we're going to investigate the field, the section of gender. And what we're going to do is we're going to take different sections of this class and intersect them later on in our discussions. And so I introduced you guys to Patricia Hill Collins, who is intersectional sociologist, and we're going to get into the idea of intersectionality after this week and start bringing that into our discussions. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take the concepts of this class and start crossing them together. And so we're going to move on to a more advanced thought in sociology, and that's intersection theory, which is very interesting and people usually enjoy quite a bit. And it's usually something that they don't tackle in these intro classes, but I think it does a better job of um, explaining what we're looking at in sociology and taking a big thought and pivoting with it. But this week will be a little more laid back. We're going to read the section on gender, which is something that, if we're following the news, we just went through a very interesting political week with this Kavanaugh hearing, and this is something that's very relevant today. It's discussing the place of gender in our society, and so we're looking at the level of stratification that women are under, and other groups, not just women in this section. We're also going to look at how our system set up a situation that makes things difficult for everybody. So our discussion will get into how it's a question from feminist theory, which I'm going to get into later on this screencast. But we're going to discuss how maybe our arrangement right now isn't so healthy for men either. Um, and I'll get into that more as we get into what our discussion is going to be. So this section, I want you to read this very carefully. This is something that's discussed quite a bit, and unfortunately, people don't have a very strong understanding of it. So my goal this week, I'm actually going to take part of an assignment I use in my American government class, out of all places, where I discuss feminism, and we're going to bring part of that assignment into this class. I think it fits in very well here, and sometimes things carry over from one class to another. So what you're going to do is you're going to start responding to the Chapter 7 discussion. We're discussing race in that area, so I do know that that is a hard area for some people to discuss. And then I will change this because we are on Chapter 8. I just didn't quite update my notes very well. And then we're going to watch a short video called Women Who Make America. It's an older video, so as you can tell by watching it and seeing some of the people in there, you have some people in there like a Hillary Clinton back when she was Secretary of State, so it was an older video. Um, but we're gonna watch that. It's a short video. You're going to read what I think is one of the best articles written on modern feminism. It's also one that hasn't been read by a whole bunch of people, but I think it's a very good discussion point for people to get into. And this article discusses why feminism is something that everybody should be interested in. They also get a little so I'll let you read that. I'm not going to discuss that too much here. Then there's a Dropbox assignment, which is associated to these two articles, and I want you to have that done. And I'm going to put up a Dropbox for chapters 4 through 8, so you're going to have that section too, where I want you to again take these four chapters and try to relate them to yourself. We're building a biography in this class, which was discussed in the Radhakrishna video with a Collins, and they discussed the importance of biography being explained by sociology. So a biography by itself is interesting, but when you start taking these concepts and applying them to a biography, it gives you a better understanding of who you are. So, these are things we can all get into: our race, our gender, our class, etc. So you're going to write on those, and I'm going to have that up here. And then we have a discussion board. So I will go ahead and go over these questions because on their face they might be a little confusing. So here we go. We got our Women Who Make America video link, and then here's this article on why everyday feminism is for everyone. And like I said, I think this is probably one of the best articles I've ever seen on this. Um, there's a lot of times when people are taking a class and they think things don't relate to them. I usually try to find things that I hope can relate to everybody in the class. And so this actually gets into why men may want to pay attention to feminism too, and how they can benefit from understanding this. Again, I'm not going to explain too much. I want you to actually read it and take your time to read it because it's a really good article. And we have our Dropbox, which I'm making sure you read it because the first two questions, one paragraph answers on these. These aren't going to be one sentence answers. So I want a solid paragraph on, first of all, what is feminism? And then second of all, how is feminism for men also? The second question. And then we have the video here, and you're going to answer these questions on this video. Our discussion, what we're getting at is describe the problems men face in a society that promotes male domination and traditional standards of masculinity. This question is something that's asked in a lot of sociology classes. When I first started teaching at Black Hills State, the first class I taught was social problems. And in that class, there is an author named Ashonis who I used a textbook from. And in his section on gender, there was a section that really stuck out to me when I was setting up my slides for that class, for my PowerPoint. And he talked about feminist theory. And he said feminist theory not only explains how women can benefit from equality, but feminist theory also gets into a discussion of how our arrangement that we have, where men have to constantly try to be in control of everything, is causing trouble for men too. In his chapter, he discusses how possibly it helps promote our unhealthy mental and physical lifestyles that we lead because we're trying to be in too much control. So I want you to discuss some of the problems related to men trying to dominate everything. This might be a hard question for some guys to answer, but it's important to look at. It's a good sociological question. And then the feminism, I want you to discuss why your main takeaway from the reading. I always find that people have a really hard time understanding exactly what feminism is. And, we can boil it down to different discussions, but in general, the discussion gets into the idea that, people want equality for everybody. And a lot of people will point out that in our society, women have a very difficult time compared to men with some aspects of life, and so I want you to have a discussion on this. But go ahead and use this article. I think it's a good reference for you, and it's something that everybody should pay attention to. It has some great points. If anyone has any questions, I want you to feel free to get back to me with these. I will change the date here. I noticed another typo. I have no idea what I was thinking of 2/8, but I will fix that. And so I'll have that fixed, and I'll have the right chapter here when you guys have this published. But like I said, we are going to take these ideas and we're going to intersect them. So as we look through our table of contents of what we discussed so far in this class, um, and this is kind of a mess on my side as compared to what you see. But we're going to take how our cultures and our social groups and our classes and our race and gender intersect, and how we can possibly fit multiple levels of stratification based on that. So that's something we're going to move on to in this class. I think it's, like I said, a fun discussion. Um, Not really going to have it yet. I mean, you probably can a little bit in this discussion, but we will guide towards that direction in later chapters. So you're going to, for example, you're going to see a video with Patricia Hill Collins delivering a graduation address to a university, and she discusses stratification, and she does it with a very she goes over her own biography and uses it to discuss how some policies affected her family and her life, and so you're going to be able to see how her gender and her race and her ethnicity and her neighborhood all fed in to stratification, and then what she did about it and how it helped shape who she is. So I think it's really fun to do this. And again, this will all feed back into something that you could probably put in your paper. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you email me on D2L. I check these. My BHSU email gets checked a lot less frequently. But thank you, and have a great week.